When was the last time you stepped outside at night and really saw the stars? I mean, truly saw them. The Milky Way splashed across the sky. For almost all of human history, that view was a given. But today, for so many of us, it's gone. And that's not just a shame, it's a sign of a massive global problem we call light pollution.
Look, our ability to light up the night is without a doubt one of our greatest achievements. It keeps us safe, it drives our economies, but in our quest to push back the darkness, we've accidentally created this invisible, creeping environmental problem, one that, believe it or not, is getting worse every single year.
So how did we get into this mess? And more importantly, how do we get out of it? Well, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at our fading night sky. Then we'll dig into the high cost of all this light. After that, we'll explore a much smarter way to illuminate our world. We'll get a new perspective with the view from orbit. And finally, we'll talk about how we can actually reclaim our stars.
All right, let's jump right in. Because before you can fix a problem, you have to know what it is you're dealing with. And the key idea here is something called sky glow. But honestly, a much better way to think of it is as light smog.
Yeah, it's just like it sounds. You know how chemical smog creates that hazy dome over a city? Well, light smog is the exact same thing, but it's made of wasted light. It's every single street light that points up instead of down, every billboard that's way too bright, every empty office building lit up at 3 in the morning. All that light shoots up, hits particles in the atmosphere, and scatters, creating this artificial glow that just washes out the night sky.
And this isn't some niche problem just for big cities like New York or Tokyo. Get this, a staggering 80% of the entire world's population now lives under a sky polluted by light. And if you're in Europe or the United States, that number jumps to an almost unbelievable 99%. We've basically become a planet that can no longer see the universe it lives in.
So sky glow is the big, obvious result. But it's actually made up of 4 other kinds of light pollution we all deal with. You've got light trespass. Yeah, that's your neighbor's security light blasting through your bedroom window. There's over-illumination, using a floodlight that could land a plane just to light up a doorway. Then you have glare, that blinding, dangerous light from an oncoming car's headlights. And finally, light clutter, that chaotic, confusing mess of signs and lights in a busy downtown area. You mix all those together, and boom, you get the sky glow that erases the stars.
So, you might be thinking, okay, so we're missing out on a nice view. Is it really that big of a deal? And the answer is a resounding yes. The cost of this never-ending brightness goes way beyond astronomy. This is a serious environmental threat, and it affects pretty much every living thing on this planet, including you and me.
For us humans, constant artificial light at night completely messes with our internal clocks, our circadian rhythms. It tricks our bodies into thinking it's still daytime, which suppresses a hormone called melatonin. And melatonin isn't just for sleep, it's vital for our immune system. For animals, it can be an absolute disaster. Migrating birds use the stars to navigate. City lights disorient them, sending them fatally off course. Baby sea turtles are born programmed to follow the brightest light, which should be the moon over the ocean, but instead they crawl towards brightly lit streets. It's heartbreaking. Even plants get confused. A tree under a streetlight might not drop its leaves in the fall, which messes up its entire life cycle. And of course, every bit of this wasted light is also wasted electricity, which means we're pointlessly pumping more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
Now you'd think, given all that, the goal would be to dial it back, right? To be a little more careful. Well, what if I told you that some people have actually tried to make our nights even brighter by launching gigantic mirrors into space to reflect the sun?
I know, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but this actually happened. Back in 1993, a Russian experiment called Znamya 2 unfolded a huge 20-meter mirror in orbit. It created a spot of light on the ground as bright as the full moon and swept it across Europe. A bigger version failed a few years later when the mirror tore on an antenna. And even now, in the 2020s, you see serious proposals for so-called artificial moons to light up entire cities. It just goes to show you how extreme our desire to eliminate the night can be.
Okay, so the problem is huge, and some of the proposed solutions are, well, they're pretty out there. So how do we actually start to fix this? The great news is that the real solutions are surprisingly simple. This isn't about plunging our cities into darkness. It's about being smarter, not just brighter. The number one most important principle is this. Just use the light you actually need and no more. A huge chunk of light pollution comes from simple over-illumination, just blasting an area with far more light than is necessary for safety or visibility. It's all about precision and efficiency.
And this really boils down to two key actions. First, put light only where you need it and only when you need it. That means using fixtures with shields that direct light downwards, onto the ground, not up into the sky. And it means using timers and motion sensors so lights aren't on all night for no reason. Second, and this is crucial, we have to control the color of the light. That harsh blue-white light from a lot of early LEDs is the absolute worst for wildlife and for our own health. Just switching to warmer, amber-colored lights makes an incredible difference.
But here's the catch. Let's say a city passes these amazing new lighting laws. How do you actually know if they're working? I mean, think about it. You can't just send thousands of people out with light meters to walk every single street in Los Angeles or London. Trying to monitor this from the ground on a large scale is pretty much impossible.
So what's the answer? Well, it turns out we need to get a whole new perspective. To really grasp the scale of the problem and to check if our solutions are making a dent, we need to look down from high above the Earth.
And the technology we have now is just incredible. The first satellites that mapped nightlights back in the 70s, well, they gave us the first ever global picture, which was amazing, but it was super blurry. It was like looking at a city through a frosted window. But today, modern satellites like the Jilin 1-07-08 have such insane resolution they can see individual light sources. We can literally look at an airport from space and tell the difference between the lights on the runway and the lights in the parking lot. The leap in technology is just night and day.
And this eye-in-the-sky approach is part of a much bigger scientific toolkit for monitoring our planet. I mean, scientists do some amazing things. For example, as this shows, when old satellites burn up re-entering the atmosphere, they leave behind tiny metal particles. Scientists can actually fly high-altitude planes through these trails to study them. It's a perfect example of how sophisticated our ability to monitor the atmosphere has become, which gives us great confidence in the quality of the light pollution data we're getting from space.
So, what does this incredible satellite data actually let us do? Well, for starters, we can create hyper-detailed maps that pinpoint exactly where the worst light pollution is coming from. We can build a global atlas to track year by year whether the world is getting brighter or darker. We can even train AI to automatically spot new sources of light and predict how that light smog is going to spread. It basically takes policymaking out of the realm of guesswork and puts it firmly into data-driven science.
So, after all this, where do we stand? It might sound a little bit depressing. A world that's constantly getting brighter, a sky that's getting emptier. But here's the most important thing to remember. Unlike so many other kinds of pollution, light pollution is immediately and completely reversible. The path forward is really a 1-2 punch. Smart policy on the ground, verified by advanced technology from space. First, we put smart lighting rules in place. Shielded, warm-colored lights, used only where and when they're truly needed. Then, we use these amazing high-resolution satellites to make sure those rules are actually working, to hold ourselves accountable. The moment you flip a switch on a bad light, that pollution is gone, instantly.
So, we have the knowledge, we have the tools, we know how to measure the problem, and we have the strategies to fix it. We can absolutely bring back the night sky, not just for a few scientists, but for the health of our planet and for that simple, awe-inspiring experience of looking up and feeling connected to the universe. We can do it. The only real question left is, will we?